Any chance if he throws a couple of picks this week, we'll see Trubisky come off the bench again?
Oh, no. I think that ship has sailed.
Appreciate you streaming in with us, Sunbirds 365. Jody McDonald, in case you forgot, ex-Steeler Barrett Brooks. We know he's an ex-Eagle, but he's an ex-Steeler too, and a guy who covers the Steelers day in and day out in Pittsburgh on 93.7 The Fan, weekends on CBS Sports Radio, and I try and catch him on FanDuel TV. Between you and I'm watching for the horsey coverage, but it's always fun when Pony pops up. Andrew Fillipponi jumps in with me here.
Andrew, how's it going, man?
Hey, Barrett. Yeah, mention that Steelers part of your career. I like that.
Yeah. I want to ring with him, man.
Yourself to me.
Yep. Well, you know what? I tell you what, man. I had Charlie Batch on yesterday. Former teammate of mine. I'll have Max Starks on my show today. But man, I tell you what, man. You guys are going through it. I mean, this is the first year without Big Ben. That's got to be, because I was there his rookie year. I was with him. In fact, I was his. I remember when he first started out. He came in and I was, second team then. So I was backing up left tackle. I remember being in games and him first getting on the field, and it'd be a 6-man box and he's checking the pass plays. I'm no, check to the run play. Then he checked the run play, and Fast Willie Parker take it for like 40 yards, and then it'd be an 8 or 9-man box, and he wants to check it to the run play. No, now you check it to the pass play. So you go from there to a Hall of Fame career, and now him not being on the field. It's kind of crazy, how things go in Pittsburgh when it comes to that.
Yeah, it would have been a lot harder for me in terms of missing him and having nostalgic feelings about him if the Steelers had just stayed the course with Mitch Trubisky. I couldn't watch Mitch anymore.
Oh, yeah. Was he that bad?
I was so happy. Well, you just know what he is. He's just a quarterback.
Right.
That is a stopgap, better off as a backup, came in off the bench for the Tampa Bay game. He was great in that situation. You could do stuff like that. But, if we were stuck with Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph, this would be the season from hell. But the fact that at least we get to watch Kenny Pickett, who, by the way, Jody, grew up a big Eagles fan. He is going to have hundreds, if not thousands of fans at this game on Sunday. He's a New Jersey guy. He's one of these Jersey kids who loved the Eagles, had a 5 McNabb jersey. He had multiple 5 McNabb jerseys, as a matter of fact. He had a whole closet full of them. So he circled, when he got drafted and the schedule came out, he told me he circled this game. This is a childhood dream come true for him to coach against to play against the Eagles on Sunday.
I saw him play on Sunday night, the whole game against the Dolphins. Made some nice plays, made some bad decisions. He's seriously going through growing pains as a rookie in the National Football League. You mentioned Trubisky coming off the bench, helping the Steelers actually get a win. I was even a little surprised. I shouldn't have been. The Pickett was back in this last week. I thought the coach was going to continue to try and win games, and Trubisky gave him a better shot right now. You're right. They've made a commitment to see what Pickett is. Any chance if he throws a couple of picks this week, we'll see Trubisky come off the bench again?
Oh, no. I think that ship has sailed. I think there's a better chance Trubisky gets traded on Tuesday than there is he comes into this game.
Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
I think he's locked in as the backup. You've got 2 very disgruntled backup quarterbacks. Go ahead, Barrett, go ask your buddy Charlie. These guys feel like they've been misled by Tomlin. Tomlin told all 3 quarterbacks that they were going to have an equal competition. And then Trubisky got every first-team rep, every training camp rep with the first team. That's why, Jody, you see those miscommunication plays with Pickett and Johnson at the end of the game. They never played with each other until that Jets game in week 4. No preseason reps together, no training camp time together. It was all Trubisky. So in that respect, you might say, Trubisky loves Tomlin. Well, he thought it was going to be his job all year. When Tomlin goes and talks to Jay Glazer, you can take that Jay Glazer information good as gold, because those guys are good buddies. They drink beers together. Tomlin lets Jay Glazer basically on the field at training camp, and he's out there while they're running their plays. I mean, they're that close. And he said, look, Tomlin wants to go with Trubisky all year. Well, he bailed on that plan because the offense was so stuck in the mud and was so incompetent that he felt, well, I got to get a spark. I'm going to go to Pickett. So when that happened, Jody, Trubisky's like, what the heck's this all about? That's all it takes. We're down 4 points to the Jets, or 6 points, excuse me. I'm going to get benched for that. So he's not happy with that whole situation. Mason Rudolph and Mitch Trubisky both want a fresh start somewhere else.
Well, I mean, you think it? Well, when I look at it, I still see an offense that's still stuck in the mud. So I hear a lot of rumblings that is more so Matt Canada instead of who's at the quarterback.
Oh, it
position.
is. You're right about that, Barrett. Your rumblings, whoever those rumblings are, telling you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That is factual. I've never heard so many players, callers to our talk shows and us media types. That's one thing if we say the offensive coordinator blows. Everybody thinks they're a play caller.
Yeah.
Everyone's played Madden. Everyone's played high school football. Everybody thinks they can call better plays. I get all that. I do that for a living. It's built this house that I'm sitting in right now to talk to you guys. Criticizing offensive. No, seriously, criticizing offensive coordinators. But when it's coming from the players inside and not leaking things, when they're saying it in their media availabilities, when they're coming out after games. We had a reporter. Now, this reporter made a very poor decision. He blew off his wedding anniversary in Miami to go cover the Steelers-Dolphins game. So he made a business decision, but he was able to bring us good information back. He said Steelers players, and he's seen frustrated players after games. It happens. He said they were cursing out the offensive coordinator by name as they came off the field. Barrett, you played on NFL teams. Maybe that happens behind closed doors, but you know where the cameras are. Now everybody's a reporter. They got their cell phones out. I mean, it's almost like these guys want people to know that the offensive coordinator has no business calling plays anymore.
And, it's an old school type of place. They don't just they won't just, take a guy from his position, especially when they're paying them.
Exactly.
They're just an old school organization. They won't do that. I've had that done one time during my career, and it happened to be my last year in Philadelphia. We had Dana Bibles, our offensive coordinator. All of a sudden, halfway through the season, Bill Musgrave, who was on a roster the year before, became the offensive coordinator. He was a third-team quarterback the year before, became an offensive coordinator halfway through the season.
Wow.
Needless to say, it was a 3-13 year that we had. But, I've heard it from a number of sources. A number of players have told me the same thing. So, yeah, you're right. Canada, I don't see the direction. I mean, wasn't he in Maryland or something? He didn't do anything there either.
So here's the story there, guys. And he's so bad at his job, and he had so little in terms of NFL qualifications. He had spent 25 years as a college football nomad, and not in the mercenary kind of way where he's at LSU 1 year, Notre Dame, Georgia, Alabama, like the great college football programs. He was at places like Indiana, NC State. I mean, he was at FBS schools, but he wasn't known as this great offensive college guru. He was at Pitt for a year. They averaged over 30 points per game in every game, but they had James Conner as the running back, Tyler Boyd at wide receiver, Brian O'Neill at left tackle, who's now in Minnesota.
Yeah,
they had a stacked up Nathan Peterman, who's an awful NFL quarterback, was a very good college quarterback.
Yeah,
they had a lot of players.
Yeah,
they were in the ACC. They scored points. They beat Penn State that year. They beat Clemson that year on the road. They're the last ACC team to beat Clemson in Clemson. So he gets the job at LSU from that. He fizzles out after 1 year. To Barrett's point, this guy goes to Maryland. Now, the head coach at Maryland gets fired because a player dies on his watch. Very tragic situation.
I remember that, yes.
Canada promoted. Here's the second connection. So it was at Pitt right next door. Barrett, the next link, you can look this up. There's been articles written about it. No one wanted to go to Maryland. The program was in shambles. The first guy to get a scholarship to Maryland was Mike Tomlin's son. Matt Canada recruited Tomlin's son. He goes in Maryland. He becomes their first recruit after that tragic situation. So just call it like it is. There's obviously a clear There's obviously a close personal connection between the two men.
Yes.
You can speculate as to how deep it is, but just based on that, they both took a chance on each other with Tomlin's son and now, where this guy was brought in first a quarterbacks coach, and they hadn't had a quarterbacks coach in years because Ben didn't want to put up with it. And he was being groomed to be the offensive coordinator. And Jody, it has been a disaster with this guy as the offensive coordinator. They've scored 30 points one time, and it was a game against LA, the Chargers, where Ben scrapped the plays and just did no huddle the second half of the game.
Fair enough. So are we blaming Matt Canada for the fact that Najee Harris has not become a dominant back in the National Football League. Loved the kid at Alabama. Applauded the Steelers for using his higher draft pick on him as they did. Oh, you can't draft running backs high. Yeah, you can if they're difference makers. And I thought he was going to be that. He hasn't been. Is that all Matt Canada's doing?
No, it's not. Not even close. I look at another Alabama running back. Everybody said, we're in Pittsburgh again. We're biased. We thought we had the worst offense. Barrett, you could have come back and played on this offensive line. It was so
right.
bad.
They are horrible, man.
I mean, we thought Dan Moore at left tackle. I was saying, Barrett Brooks is working for NBC Sports. Get him back in Pittsburgh right now. That's how bad it looked in the preseason. There's an offensive line in Vegas that they were saying the same thing about, Jody. This line, the Raiders line, so bad they cut Leatherwood. It was such a joke. Now you've got Josh Jacobs behind that line. He all of a sudden looks like Superman. So that's what we're looking at. Like, wait a minute. Why is that Alabama running back making a big jump? Ours is not. We were going to use the offensive line as an excuse for everything. Bad quarterback play, bad play calling, bad running game. That's not been the case this year. It's not been good. It's not like the Eagles' offensive line, but it's at least been adequate. The plays are not ruined because of horrific blocking. We thought that was going to happen, that every play was going to be doomed from the start because of bad blocking. So my point is, Najee's actually had more of an opportunity this year than we thought. But here is something you can blame, Jody, other than him. He has to take a lot of personal accountability. The guy had a Liz Frank injury in training camp. Mike Tomlin came out and said somebody stepped on his foot. Now, I know Najee, he was so pissed off by that because the coach made it sound like he had a minor injury that was keeping him off the field. He's a very prideful guy. So he comes out, Barrett, and does something players never do. He says, this is my injury. It's a Liz Frank. The team never said that. The player had to go out and self-report an injury.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
So he gets held out all the way through the last preseason game. When Tomlin looks at this offense and says, we're bad, we got to get some chemistry, he re-injures it in the last preseason game. He plays the entire first half. So up until 2 weeks ago, Jody, he had a steel plate in his cleat that he was playing with to protect himself. So he's taken it out. He looks a little bit better. But if I had my druthers, I think the rookie running back behind him at the moment is a better player. I think if the Steelers were smart, they would give Jalen Warren 15 carries a game, but they can't because the politics of the guy being a first-round pick.
Unbelievable, man.
That is a little scary. All right, so the Eagles defense has played well this year. Steelers have not scored over 20. The one time they scored over 23, they needed overtime to do it to get to 23. So they've been 20 or less every single game. Eagles defense playing well. What's the Steeler game plan coming in? The Matt Canada, Mike Tomlin, don't go to the backup running back or quarterback. How are the Steelers going to put points on the board against Eagles, or at least try and put points on the board against the Eagles on Sunday?
You guys need to take a siesta in the middle of the game like you have against some other teams. That's what we need. We need the Eagles, they have these amazing second quarters. Then I don't know what they're eating pizza, smoking cigarettes at halftime. I don't know what happens, but sometimes they have a tendency to come out in the second half and not really just go for the jugular.
True.
That's what the Steelers need. They also need, guys, they need TJ Watt to pull a Willis Reed in this game. They need Watt. So you guys need to follow this now. So the reporting here was that Watt was going to wait till after the bye week, okay? He comes out and he practices the last two games. They've activated him off the IR in the way that now they have 3 weeks to determine when he's going to play. So he's not technically on the injury report because he hasn't been added to the active roster yet. But how about this? He's actually going to talk to the media today.
Really?
Now, I find that very peculiar because Tomlin usually has a gag order on guys that aren't technically on the roster. When Ben hurt his elbow, for example, he would still do his radio show on our station because he liked me so much. But other than that, he wasn't talking to anybody. So the fact that he's going to talk today, he might look at this dire situation and pull a Willis Reed in attempt to give the Steelers something, maybe a pitch count, but just give them something for this game, which you mentioned it, Jody, that Bengals game that they won. He could be a game wrecker. He could completely, he's one of the handful of players in this league that can almost single-handedly blow up an offensive game plan.
Yeah, the record is crazy. You know, the 1-9 when he's not starting, when he's not in the game, they're 1-9. So that'd be a major boost for that team going in. But it just so happened that you guys are catching us right after the bye. And this Eagles team, as far as self-evaluations, breaking down exactly what's wrong with them, they do very good, man. They overcorrect almost, so it's going to be tough for them, man. But, TJ Watt being back, that's a major key to that defense, because look at the defensive players they have. You have you could double team Hayward because no TJ Watt there. Now, if he comes back, now you got to allocate resources to stopping Watt. Now you can't do the same for Hayward. He can mix it up in there, and you already got two pretty good safeties in Edwards and Minka Fitzpatrick. Minka's one of the best safeties in the league. So you have players there. That means a lot, man. That means an awful lot when it comes to how they play the defense on the defensive side of the ball, man. That's a great little
Highsmith was great that first game when Watt was out there. The other outside linebacker, he had 3 sacks, which helped put him in position. He's been leading the league in sacks, and it's really off of one game that he had when Watt was in the lineup. So now you get the whole bookend thing going again, where you have to take account for guys on both sides. I'm interested. You guys tell me, is Lane Johnson going to play in this game, or is it going to be Driscoll? So
you'd have to hide his helmet. You'd have to bury his helmet.
So he's
somewhere
back
without him playing.
Well,
he's back.
That's the way I saw Micah Parsons move over in the second half of that Cowboys game. That now you're shattering all my hopes and dreams.
Yeah, sorry about that. Lane was all but guaranteeing the fact yesterday that he's going to be in the game.
Yeah, he passed the protocol yesterday.
Then that's a problem. That's an issue. Maybe Nick Sirianni, who grew up a Pirates fan, Jody, will have sympathy on the Steelers on Sunday. Did you know that?
Or they can do exactly what they've done: get a big lead and then throw it into cruise control. That has happened.
He's a
almost
Benedict
every
Arnold,
game with
Sirianni.
this year.
He's a Benedict Arnold. He loved those '90s Pirates. Now he's saying he's a diehard Phillies fan. What's that all about?
He'll have a Phillies jersey.
Win in Rome, bro. Win in Rome.
Hey, at least Jalen Hurts. You got to give him props. He's sticking with his hometown team, Jody. How about that?
My usual partner, John McMullen, who had to run in because the Eagles media availability, likes to call Sirianni the panderer in chief, because he jumps on those bandwagons. He'll have a Phillies jersey on at some point over the weekend. I guarantee.
Well, just like myself, I grew up in baseball heaven, man. I grew up in a Cardinals fan. I'm talking about an old time Cardinals fan. I was out there when they really had it was baseball heaven, but I've been here for so long now. I'm going on 25, 26 years. So I just became a Phillies fan.
Phillies guy. Yeah,
I've been in Philly so long. I've spent more time in Philadelphia than I spent anywhere else in my life. So I'm here now. I'm a Philly all the way now.
Jody, I could walk from where I am right now to the college where Nick Sirianni's brother was a Division III football coach for about 30 years.
Wow.
It's within walking distance from where I live. It's actually Roger Goodell's alma mater.
Really?
And he does not donate a single dollar back there. They absolutely hate his guts. It's a school that really, there's a lot of future people that work in politics and things like that, policymakers who go to this very small Division III private school south of Pittsburgh. I live very close by, but Sirianni's brother was a very good coach there for a long time. So my guess is he's also a Benedict Arnold. Instead of rooting for the Steelers on Sunday, he'll have all his Eagles garb on for his bro.
Eagles, Phillies, you name it, Philadelphia, you name it. You need to inform us here. Rumblings. You know better than me. You got the finger on the pulse there in Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool, one of those unhappy guys with the Steelers offense. Is he dropping it all on the doorstep of Matt Canada? Is he worrying about what his quarterback is saying? These are second-year guys. It annoys the snot out of me. Elijah Moore with the Jets, and he's worse because the Jets are 5-2. At least the Steelers have a losing record. Claypool could complain a little bit more and just be justified about it because they're not winning games. I know to be an NFL wide receiver, you almost have to be. It's almost an obligation to be a diva. But these guys don't even have 2 years in the NFL. They're already whining and moaning about how much they're getting the football thrown their way. How big a deal is it in Pittsburgh that Claypool doesn't like the way the Steelers offense is running, particularly balls getting thrown to him.
Well, it's not that big of a deal because we don't like him here. It's good riddance. The greatest game he ever had was against the Eagles in that COVID year, where I think he had 3 receiving touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. It was like the single greatest scoring game by a wide receiver in NFL history.
It was amazing.
He had a whole season's worth of production in one game. Last year, in 16 games, he didn't duplicate that. I just get so fed up. These Notre Dame players are all so overrated. All of them.
He's Notre Dame hate. All right.
He's another one of these golden domers that just drive me nuts. So here's the deal, Jody. So this guy has now been tutored and mentored by Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall is like his personal coach. So he's getting coaching on how he communicates through the media and everything else from Brandon Marshall. I have it on pretty good authority that it's his camp that wants him traded. His agents, his people around him, Marshall included, they don't think that the Steelers are a good team for him anymore because a lot of the stuff we're talking about, not only the coordinator, and he came out after Sunday's game and said, we need to throw more go balls. Hey, Chase, don't slip and fall on a go ball that ends up as an interception, and maybe they'll have more of those play calls for you. So he's blaming the coach. It's really on him. So he's saying these things, but he sees the writing on the wall, Jody. They paid Deontay Johnson, and George Pickens, a rookie, is already better than him.
Yeah.
So he's kind of – the Steelers, it's very hard to get a second contract as a wide receiver as it is with this team. He knows he's not long for this team, and I think he's got people telling him, hey – look, we've had guys that have basically quit on the Steelers like LeGarrette Blount in the last few years that have gotten either cut or traded because they were so disruptive. Claypool has not gone to that extent, but he's trying to let them know that he doesn't want to be there anymore and hopes that they give in to his demands Tuesday. I think he wants to go play for the Rams. That's what I'm hearing. I think he wants to be an LA Ram when the trade deadline comes on Tuesday.
And oh, by the way, other than Cooper Kupp, the Rams wide receivers haven't done anything, so they might be open.
Look at Allen Robinson. Exactly, Jody. That's right.
Next to nothing, but the Rams are a little short on draft picks, so be a kind of funky trade to work out. Who's more likely to be traded, Claypool or Trubisky?
I would say Claypool because I think teams might actually want him.
Yeah.
You know, you play more than one wide receiver. You only play one quarterback. He'd be an insurance policy for somebody. I don't know what you're going to get back for him. He's got a cap hit of, I think, $8 million next year. That's going to be hard to move unless you eat some of that. Claypool, I think it's a matter of – see, the problem with the Steelers trading him, Jody, is that they don't want to throw in the towel on the year. And even though Claypool's not the type of player that, oh, no, he's gone, season's over, we might as well – put our draft plans together. He's clearly not that good, but they're more concerned about the messaging. Barrett was around the team, keeping the, never say die. Our standard is to win Super Bowls. If we willingly trade a player who gets a lot of playing time for us for a draft pick, what message does that send to the rest of the team? It sends the message that you're concerned more about next year than you are this year. And I think that basically they'd have to go over Tomlin and the GM here and Andy Weidel now, who came from the Eagles, who I hear great things about, who should probably be the actual GM of this team. I think they would have to almost, lock Tomlin in a room and make the trade and then deal with the consequences of it later. So
you're absolutely right on that. They don't do things like that. In fact, you talking about an organization that still eats fish every Friday. Devout Catholics, they don't play, so that's the reason why they've only had 3 coaches during their tenure. So that's why I think Canada will make it through the year, and they probably won't. In fact, I know they won't trade Claypool simply because they feel as though they will always be competing, at least, and showing that and having that, the line of sight is we're still focused on winning.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Pony, need you on the record. Give us a pick on the game, competitive, hanging the bounce, Steelers pulling upset. Eagles don't fall asleep in the third quarter. This one could get ugly. Which way are you leaning towards? Steelers, Eagles, final score come Sunday?
I think the Steelers do something spectacularly bad in the last few minutes of this game to lose it. I think there's like a Deontay Johnson fumble or like some kind of crushing, soul-sucking penalty that cost them the game and has me on the air Monday just, reminding people that I can't use the words I want to use because the FCC governs our show. I think that's what happens. I know it's a huge spread. Jody, I like those kind of things. I think the Steelers can hang around and cover in the game, but I just think they'll beat themselves in a way that prevents them from winning in just spectacularly bad fashion.
See, this is why we have to have a Pittsburgh guy on. We've had Philadelphia guys all week. Eagles going to win. Don't know about the 10.5. Blah, blah, blah. It takes a Pittsburgh guy to go, and it'll be a soul-sucking loss for the Steelers because they'll somehow shoot themselves in the foot.
Yep.
That's why we needed you, Pony.
Love it, Andrew. Love it, man.
Guys.
Thanks.